People, what I'm going to tell you right now is we need to quit trying to do kingdom work, and we need to be training. We need to be training to do kingdom work, not trying to do kingdom work. There's been way too long that we've just been trying to do the right thing. And I'm going to suggest you need to get into training, and we're going to offer you training tools. We're going to offer you a way to get into training, but this isn't going to happen if you don't. So God has called us to help people live full lives by relieving poverty, not just feeding poverty. Feeding without teaching creates dependency, and it fosters helplessness and hopelessness. Now, Jesus came to earth to teach. In Mark 10:1, it says, and again the crowds came to him, and as was his custom, he taught them. That's what Jesus did in his 3 years, was he was busy teaching us. This idea of teaching isn't a new concept. It's about as old as it gets, and it needs to be stronger in a Christian concept when it comes to who we help. Because just think about it. When your children are little, they don't have all the skills they need, right? So as a parent, at least with my kids, I have 3 adult kids, and I have 14 grandkids now that I get to live life with. But you want to teach your kids. You want to teach them how to feed themselves and clothe themselves, and you want them to excel in school. Why are you teaching them? Why are you taking time teaching them things you could do for them? Because you want them to grow up and be independent and be all that they can be. You don't want them to get, I don't want to be tying the shoes of my 40-year-old son. I mean, that's just, oh, he's older than that now. But I don't want to tie his shoes. Let's put it that way. But we as Christians, we are all too happy to do things for people that they could learn to do for themselves if we just teach them. It's an ego trip for us, you know. People come to us and they have need, and instead of finding out how they can participate in that, we just jump in because we can do it, and we love them, and we're supposed to, and that's what the Bible says, right? So we just go about and do it. But in the long run, it hurts them. It doesn't help them. It restricts them. It keeps them right there, right there. God has called us to help people thrive, not just survive. To free from bondage, to release the prisoners, to bring out of the darkness. So I don't really care what gets a person into difficult times. I've been in difficult times. I mean, part of the reason that while I thought I was such an unlikely candidate, I did have a lot of life experiences. I think I'm on my 8th life. So I had a lot of life that I could bring to the table, and not a lot of it wasn't good life. So whether it's circumstances, life choices, opportunities, lack of opportunity, all of that doesn't matter to me. When people fall into need, how we respond, we'll help them either get out of it or become burdened by it. And so much of help within the church and outside of the church is based on how we feel about it too. Does it make us feel good? Do we have good stats? Did we give away a lot of food boxes? Did we go through all our benevolence fund this month and help that many people stay in their homes? So all the while we're feeling good about what we're doing, we're keeping people dependent upon us. Zechariah 7:9 says that we're to administer true justice and show mercy. One study that would be really fun for you who are pastors or leaders in your church. Study the Bible and see if you can see when justice and mercy have been separated. Justice and mercy are married. Zechariah says, administer true justice, show mercy and compassion to one another. Don't oppress the widow, the fatherless, the alien, or the poor. So I looked up the word oppress. Oppress means that you keep someone in a subservient manner by someone exercising leadership or control over them. And synonyms for oppress are, now get this, depress, discourage, weigh down, dishearten, make despondent. Zechariah says don't oppress when you help. But when our helping efforts do absolutely nothing to change a situation in their life, do we not oppress their potential to move into the fullness of life that God has for them? God has called us to holistically heal the whole person. We just can't become satisfied at meeting need and leaving the person in a state of need. You know, a good, I think, analogy of this, just to give you, is imagine that I was in a terrible wreck and I got confined to a wheelchair and I really couldn't do much of anything for myself. And my daughter cared for me. So she pushed me around. She helped me get to the bathroom and to the bed and eat. She took care of me. One day I go to the doctor and he says, Lois, I have really good news. I think you could learn to walk again. You're healing to where you could learn to walk again. But it's going to be probably the most difficult thing you ever do. There's going to be great pain. Progress is going to be really, really slow. It's going to take a long time, and it's going to be really hard. So I go home, and I'm hopeful that I will not be dependent upon my daughter for the rest of my life. So I'm sitting in my chair, and I start to try to push myself out and use those legs that have gotten so weak. And I cry out in pain, and I start to fall, and my daughter catches me. And she gently pulls me back in the wheelchair, and with tears in her eyes, she puts her arms around me and says, Mom, I love you too much. I don't mind helping. I just can't see you go through that. It's okay, Mom, I'm here. My daughter cripples me. My daughter cripples me because she loves me so much. The Wagon Principle is an analogy that I've written that is based on holistic help. It's a component of the Redemptive Compassion Toolkit that's out in the foyer, that is the tool that we've created to help you take this journey. The reason the analogy for me works so well is on a wagon train. How many wheels are on the wagon? 4 wheels. If the wagon has 3, how well does it roll? Okay, if it's got 2 good wheels, 2 bad wheels, how well does it roll? Okay, we all get it, right? It has to have 4 working wheels to move forward in life. That's just a really simple analogy. Well, I would like to suggest that each of us have 4 wheels, 4 components in our life, critical components that holistically make us whole. There is our spiritual belief system. There is our emotional makeup. That's the addictions, the self-hate, the self-like, the everything, the attitudes, the compulsive behaviors. It's everything that emotionally, depression, anger. There's the relationship wheel, relationships. You know, past relationships, what they've spoken into someone, lack of past relationships, healthy ones, current relationships. We get people in our program, one of the first things we have to explore to them is, are you being supported in this change you're seeking in your life? Or are they speaking into you to, this is too hard, you shouldn't have to do it, that's unfair, they shouldn't be asking you? What's your support system like? What are those relationships like? Because their ability to move forward is going to be dependent on the people that are speaking into them. And the last one is the wheel we're always repairing, church. It's that physical need wheel. It's the money, it's the food, it's the clothes, it's the housing, it's the car. It's that physical wheel. It's become acceptable in our culture in America to ask for help to repair the physical wheel. So we keep repairing the physical wheel. But it's a wagon. There's spiritual, emotional, and relational things going on in that life, and if we're only going to continue to focus and repair the physical wheel, don't expect them to be able to journey to a new place in their life, to be able to move into the fullness that God has for them. All 4 components are really, really critical. But I want to talk to you a little bit about something that may make you really uncomfortable, if I haven't already. But we like to think that need is outside of us and outside of our church a lot of times. We like to think that we're not one of those people. That's one of the statements that sets me off more than anything. What's one of those people? I hear it a lot from people who come from within the church to get help, but I'm not like them. I just need a little bit of help. But I think there's a lot of need sitting in your pews. I don't have to go to your church to think that there's not a lot of hitting need. Maybe they're not asking for their physical wheel to be repaired, but what about their spiritual, emotional, relational wheels? I think there's a lot of ill health in our churches. And if the church is going to be ready to offer redemptive compassion, it's going to have to move to a deeper level and look within the church as well as outside of the church. So I came up on a new term. Craig Eshelman actually brought a new term to mind for me, and it's called proud flesh. And mostly it's used with horses, but when I researched it, it is also a term that is used with humans. So proud flesh is when a horse gets a wound on its leg, and the wound is not fully healed, but full flesh grows over the top of the wound. So you can't see the wound anymore. It's called proud flesh. It covers the wound. When the horse has it, or in humans, both, unless you surgically remove the proud flesh to get into the wound, clean it out, disinfect it, do whatever, start healing on what's on the inside, that wound never does heal. Well, our churches are filled with saved people. They've accepted Christ. They've accepted forgiveness. They're on their journey of life with Christ. But they have shame, guilt, lack of self-forgiveness, unhealed places that are covered over because they don't want anybody to see it, because after all, they know Christ now. And they've been forgiven, and they know they've been forgiven. But knowing you've been forgiven and being able to walk in that forgiveness are two different things. And church, we've got to help. If church is going to be ready for the time that's soon upon us to address need that's going to come upon us when the government programs collapse, which they're going to, we got to be healthy in church in order to be able to be reaching to those out of church. So I am suggesting that you really focus in church for those people who are hiding something that needs to be exposed, cleaned out, and healed. Now, I've been studying a lot about holistic healing and proud flesh, and so one of the things I've come to really, really know is there has to be a safe place to be exposed. So you have to have a safe place to fully reveal and still be fully loved. So people have to be able to say, I've had an abortion, and know they're still going to be loved. It is not tolerating sin. It is not accepting sin, but it is still loving the person while you help them heal from whatever has happened. There's a total big difference here. Our society's really big on tolerance, and tolerance isn't a biblical term. I'm not suggesting we embrace the sin. I am suggesting that we embrace the people in a safe way so they can be fully known and know they're still fully loved, and allow that flesh to be removed and start to work towards healing, whatever that takes. It has to be a place where truth is spoken in love, where conversations are real and honest. I constantly have churches say to me, well, that's really not my business. I really shouldn't ask that. The minute they ask you for help, they've made it your business. Amen. There has to be accountable relationships. Accountability is huge. Accountability is huge in the Bible. It's huge in our walk with people to holistic help. There have to be trained people. The thing that would break my heart the most is if you guys think that what you just heard here equips you to go out and do something. Oh, heaven help you. We have to train people so we understand boundaries and how to do this and understand what we're trying to do. Otherwise, we're a tool that could mar, that could not help. And I have come to believe, as I have searched in the Bible and studied and read, that true healing, full healing, actually does occur within the body of Christ, better than with individuals. I don't think holistic healing occurs as well between one person and one person. The body brings an element that's just, it's God's plan. Some people will do one thing, some people will do another thing. Not everything is known to all people, but it is the body coming together to bring health and wholeness and healing into a person's life. I think it's critical. So Hebrews 12 and 13 says we have to strengthen feeble arms and weak knees. We have to make level paths for our feet so that the lame are not disabled, but rather they're healed.